What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to the Lorcana Goons channel. You're watching the Friday Weekly Market Watch with me. My name's Kevin. We're here with Zach Stone to go over Lorcana news, meta trends, and card prices. Here we have some news about the Wilds Unknown pre-release kit. This is what we're going to be receiving from now on during your LGS pre-release event. So that's pretty cool. And we're previewing the new set. This is going to be set 11. We haven't even, no, sorry, set 12. Set 12. We haven't even gone to set 11 yet, and Lorcana's already previewing set 12 for us, but this is kind of what we're used to, right? Wilds Unknown, going to be introducing the first Pixar IP, Toy Story, and we have even some hidden intellectual properties here. Some packs right here are blurred out. We don't know what we're going to be acquiring as well in this set, but I'm going to take a guess. Zach Stone's going to take a guess too. I'm going to say they're going to give us another Pixar IP. I'm hoping it's Bug's Life. What do you think it is, Zach?
Oh gosh. Well, what is up, my Lorcana Goons? Good morning. And I am going to guess that the IP is Pocahontas. I think there was some alluding to that at the last D23. I know that they had a little teaser of what they were bringing in the coming years of Lorcana. It's when we also found out where I think Continentals and Worlds was during season one. So yeah, this pre-release pack, these are now given to LGSs hosting pre-releases during the pre-release weekend of sets. This will start in Wilds Unknown. So the next set we do know is Winter Spell. It will not be for Winter Spell, but for the future set after that, and then on, from Fin Infinity to beyond, we'll have pre-release packs. And it comes with the random postcards and one of 6 random promo cards. So very, very happy for this. I think a lot of people are excited to get some additional goodies. I know a lot of collectors do like to collect some of these boxes that come in during pre-release week. I know there's rectangle boxes that they give out that I actually try to get my hands on a few of them every once in a while.
I like those too, yeah.
This is going to be different. These are going to be different, and I like that. Good job.
Yeah, this is kind of new to me. I've been hearing that this is something they do in other card games. The people have been asking for this in Lorcana. Again, this is new to me. I think this is something that is really cool to actually have a whole dedicated kit experience for your pre-release weekend. I felt like for a long time LGSs were kind of doing all the work there for that kind of stuff. But let's move on. This is the Market Watch. After all, we're gonna go over some card trending prices. Actually, it's been brought to my attention that a golden Mickey from the Disney Lorcana Challenge has been sold for $14,500. This was a CGC Pristine 10 Golden Mickey, and if you don't know how to get this Mickey, you have to make it to top 8 of a Disney Lorcana Challenge, and these are serialized. Actually, this is number 105 out of 500. So I do just kind of want to mention this because this is probably one of the most expensive chases in Lorcana right now, because you have to earn it. You have to win one of these, right? You can't just pull this from a pack. So 14K right there. It might kind of also be based on that number. That's a very nice serialized number in my opinion. 105 out of 500. I wonder what other numbers and how that's going to make an impact on the sale price in the future. I know some people really like the numbers that are the same one over and over again, like 444 or 111. That's I wonder if those are going to sell for more. But I mean, I'm super excited to try and win one of these in the future. Tickets for the next DLC went on sale this past week, and that was a very anxiety-inducing experience. I did not get a competitor badge. Zach did, and so did a bunch of our friends. I was able to snag an attendee badge, but boy, it was not fun. It's not a fun experience having to queue on a website through your phone and your computer at the same time, and then all your friends are saying, I got in, and you're sitting there like, my phone's still loading, I cannot get in. And it just goes to show that there needs to be more events. There absolutely just needs to be more tournaments. The fact that there's only 3 North American DLCs, it's kind of rough. A lot of people from around the world are traveling to these DLCs. It's not just North Americans that are traveling to the North American challenges, by the way. You have a worldwide community all trying to get into this tournament, right?
Yeah, and with worldwide competitors means worldwide events, and their tickets for Ghent, that is Belgium, in March, will be on sale tomorrow. So if you are a worldwide competitor and you're looking to go to more DLCs, I would, look more into the sales that will be going live tomorrow. I believe it's on Fanfinity. You should look more into that info for more. We'll have the link down below. But yeah, let's get started on more of the market now. We have a couple other things we want to talk about. This Hades Iconic right now has a last sold on eBay for around $800. And again, this card is looking like a staple in purple decks. A lot more purple steel and blurple and some other, like interesting like Rubiam decks are coming out of the gates. And again, this card is just perfect for those kind of strategies. Most of the time, you are going to draw two. However, some opponents may decide to bottom deck that character you chose, and that's okay too, because on a 5-cost body that is inkable, you can't go wrong. He's always looking for those deals, and the deals might not last much longer for this iconic, so you might want to start picking these up before they start going up.
Yeah, the Hades iconic was selling at around 600 lowest, and the last couple days they've been trickling back up with that most recent sale. The Ariel iconic, kind of a similar situation. These were selling for closer to 800 for a while, and then we saw some sales at 690, 650, 600 just yesterday. But once again, more sales happening for 800 for this card as well. On TCG Player, there's not any sales for the Ariel, actually, and we're seeing listings go lower and lower, so some a little bit less than 800 right there. For the Hades, however, there are some sales on TCG Player as recent as 2 days ago, selling for 650, 650, all of them selling for 650 on TCG Player, actually. So listings for the Hades are a little bit more available and a little bit lower on TCG Player right now than eBay, if you guys want to try and get those. But I do think it's safe to say that the Hades is going back up. I think 650 is like the lowest you're going to find it right now, and like Zach just said, it's a card you're going to want to play in like every purple deck, so it's going to be going up more and more every week, kind of like the Cinderella dream come true. This is a card you probably want to play in every Sapphire deck, right? A 4-cost uninkable that lets you ramp on play at the end of the turn. Still very strong card. Lowest verified today is going to be 365, then 370, then 399, getting very close to $400 for this Cindy. Now I think we saw the same thing last format with the Dumbo Enchanted. Dumbo Enchanted was selling for as high as around 450. We did see some sales there. You look at the Dumbo Enchanted weeks, months later, it's down to 300, right? So do you want to pay like a really hefty premium to get your card right now, or do you want to wait a couple months from now when the card kind of falls down in hype a little bit, right? We have some sales, 325, 320, 320, all of them selling for 320, but you can't find it for that cheap anymore. So we'll see if somebody picks it up for that 365 price point, right? But there's some other enchanted rares from the recent set that are selling pretty well. Malicious, Mean, and Scary. Market price was 130, but now there's only 8 listings left. Lowest verified is 190, then it jumps to 199 by Super Games Inc. down there with all 50,000 plus sales. Wow.
Yeah, no, this card is really good, right? And I think we are seeing a lot of Emerald that play this in combination with the Prince Philip. The Vanquisher of Foes, however, that is the shift card, and the Malicious Mean and Scary is also just good on its own, because you can also combo this off with something like Max Goof, Chart Topper, and get like a Grab Your Swords effect whenever you want. Remember, this just puts damage counters on each character. This doesn't actually deal damage. So Resist isn't getting around this. The new Rapunzel isn't getting around this. This also doesn't choose any characters. This just puts the damage counters on them. So Ward is not safe from this. Honestly, that combo is very Malicious, Mean, and Scary. The Webby Vanderquack is also another Emerald Enchanted that we wanted to go over. Prices of this one are starting to go a little bit below where it was at before, but not too much lower. I think I saw it as high as like 160, and now we have a few that are around $140 right now. So this is also another Emerald card a lot of people are talking about, because this character can help you ramp against the blue decks. However, it is probably the only tool besides the Hey that lets you do something like this. So you may need to consider other options to deal with a lot of the blue decks that we're seeing. I don't know, Kevin, do you like the Ward mechanic now being on something that has to get value by turning sideways?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I think it makes the card like infinitely worse, right? Obviously, like you have to turn the card sideways, and the Ward makes it, you can swing into it with a challenge. And the stats aren't too crazy either. 4 willpower, 2 strength means you can use something like a Lawrence to clear this and survive. However, the effect is decent, right? Being able to shift this card on turn 2 means there's not that many characters on that turn 2 that can contest this card. So especially against those Sapphire matchups, it's one of the few cards that does what it does. It lets you ramp in Emerald, and that's not something Emerald normally does, right? I do want to point out, all the listings for $130, they're gone. They're sold out. So if you want your Webby Enchanted, you're gonna have to pay at least 140, very close to 150 again already. And I think these are some cards that we were kind of sleeping on. And last week we looked at the prices last week, Zach, and it was like pre-sale prices, so we didn't really get like an accurate representation. But real quick, I do want to mention for any DLC enjoyers, your promos that you had that you were able to acquire at the side events, they're on TCG Player now. So you can list and you can buy your Elsa Ice Maker non-foil promo, which is selling today for around 200 bucks. We have some sales for 250, then 224, now down to 209. So these are down to as low as 200 bucks, but you can win these in the side events at DLCs. Very, very cool. I do want to go back to the Whispers in the Well cards because we have some nice epic rares that we need to talk about. He hurled his Thunderbolt, getting very close to $20. In my opinion, this is like, you're gonna have to pay pretty much 20 bucks for this epic rare, and I think it's a staple in every steel deck. Maybe not 4 copies in every steel deck, but if you're playing Sapphire Steel, you could probably get away with 3 to 4 copies in that deck, right?
Yeah, I think 4 copies is actually not bad in a lot of decks right now. I think it's kind of like the missing piece for a lot of the matchup spread. I think being able to deal 4 damage to chosen characters is just really important. I think Sapphire Steel has other ways of dealing additional damage outside of their Hurled Thunderbolt. So this in combination with Giant Fairy does feel like a Long Game Zeus all over again. But this is also just another thing to think about too. We haven't seen any green steel decks pop up, but that Shift Webby is a 4 cost. So you on turn 2 against any non-Sapphire decks, you can shift and sing Hero to Thunderbolt, and maybe you're shifting on top of an epic 1-drop Webby Vanderquack, which is also the second highest epic rare from this set, and it's going for around like 10 to 12 bucks right now. And honestly, these epic rares that are playable, I do believe that it should be at least around like, $8 to $10, right? This is a very important card if you are playing that Webby package. It's one of the few, I think the only 1-drop target. So you do need this in combination if they are going to go, turn 1 Webby and then they play a 1-drop, and then if you have the Shift Webby, usually you just play a 2-drop and alongside the Webby. You wait for them to TPO or sail, and then when you shift, you quest immediately before you ink from your hand. You get the ability to have 4 ink for your turn 3, and going into the next turn, you can kind of match their energy. So a lot of the Sapphire decks do have something to think about when they are playing against Emerald decks now. And again, I like that Emerald is like the other color that can ramp. It shouldn't just be exclusive to Sapphire.
And we even have some dirt cheap epic rares. I'm so glad we looked at this card last week, Zach, during the pre-sale pricings of Thursday night, because they were listed at $30. We were seeing $30 epic Tinkerbells listed. I don't think there was any sales for that price, but even if you bought it from anything more than $10, I think you probably overpaid that pre-sale weekend, because today they are as cheap as $5. And I was pretty hyped for this card, not gonna lie. Like I am a believer of this card, or maybe in the future I feel like this could be like the staple, like the Captain Hook, you know what I mean? So I'm pretty excited that this is an epic rare. See it so cheap right now, I'm gonna want my playsets. So that's just something I wanted to mention. Cheap epic rares too for cards that you believe in definitely exist right now. So let's go over some legendaries. The Webby Vanderquack, as we've been pointing out, is an enchanted rare, also a legendary. Today lowest verified is $25. We saw this last week at $12 to $13, and I can proudly say that we mentioned that this is a hyped up card. We mentioned on that Friday morning market watch that Webby was a card that a lot of players were looking into to use for their Sapphire counter, and now it's back up to $25. So very glad to see that. I hope you guys took advantage of that information and were able to pick up your Webbies. And let's go ahead and go over some more cards that were falling down since last week. Demona, the Scourge of the Wyvern Clan. These were selling for $30 last Thursday night, Friday morning, and today you can find them for $21.75 by competitive cards, and it kind of sticks around this $21 mark. Not too bad. You can't find any sellers with more than 1 unless you go down here by Snacks and Slabs, and they're 21 to 22 cents. Not too shabby if you want to play like 2 or 3 in your deck. That's what I was saying last week. Demona wasn't a card that I felt like I'm going to be playing 4 of in my deck, so I wasn't super confident in this card staying around that $30 price point. But Hades looking for a deal, Zach Stone. We mentioned how last week we saw it at $25. We thought it was too cheap. We thought this card is too meta important. Today, lowest verified, $36.69, right? And these sellers have some small sales. So let's go to someone who has a lot of sales, like this person, ABC's TCG, almost 10,000 sales. They have it at $37.75, Zach Stone. That's basically $38, which, in my head, that's basically $40. You're almost paying $40 now for your Hades looking for a deal. Like, aren't you glad you guys like, comment, and subscribe to Lorcana Goons so you guys can, understand that Hades looking for a deal last week was just a way better deal than it is today?
Yeah, so many people people do actually mention that like we save them money, or like we mention a card price and they're like, wait a second, I got a bunch of these somewhere, I gotta look for them. So again, guys, go through your cards that may have not gone up in price, and just double check the market every once in a while. It's good to kind of like keep record of what you may or may not have. There's a lot of ways to like keep a hold of your collection. I know it can be tiresome, but at least stay up to date with like the rares and better. You don't have to worry about too much about commons and uncommons nowadays. So it's just the rares and better you want to kind of pay a little bit more attention to, and you might want to find some more deals alongside that. But a card that actually has been going up, I think this one was around like $7 to $8, and now we're seeing closer to like 12, 13. Is this Rapunzel Ready for Adventure? And I do want to kind of mention that this is also a card that doesn't come enchanted rare. It doesn't have an enchanted copy, so these cold foils are also going to be around closer to like $18, $19, I think. And they, if they're this cheap right now, oh gosh, they're for only $15 when the non-foils are closer to 12. Something's going on here. So you might as well get some cold foils while you can, guys. Again, this is like one of these things where we talk about, and it may not stay the same price, the next time you try to look for these. So if you're listening to this right now, if you've been thinking about getting Rapunzel cold foils, you might as well, because the non-foils are just a couple dollars under.
Yeah, I think this card is actually really good. I'm a believer in this card. I've been utilizing it in my Amber Emerald aggro dog deck. It's really fun to be able to go Rapunzel into Raja, and then I give Raja that little support bubble so he's protected for the turn. Now my Raja's double protecting the rest of my dogs. It's a really good card, and to see it at $12 for the non-foil and around $14 for the foil, kind of wild, right? With these other legendaries, it makes sense why the foil and non-foil pricings are so close to each other. It's because they have enchanted rares, right? So that's usually what happens. Usually the foils and non-foils are only about $4 or $5 apart because they have enchanted rares. But for the Rapunzel, no enchanted rare, only a couple bucks more. I get it. You're probably not playing Rapunzel in your deck. It's not the most hyped up card like the Cinderella Dream Come True, right? But hey, a deal is a deal. Cinderella Dream Come True, you are not getting any deals on this card though, however. I think this card, you're going to be getting taxed. You're going to be having to pay more than $60, maybe more than $70, depending on where you're getting it from. Non-verified sellers, $70-ish, right? Lowest verified, $73 by Mondo's Bounty. Shout out you though, they got 4 copies, so you can get them all from Mondo's Bounty right here. And yeah, sticking around $74 to $75 today. That's insane, because pre-sale prices were like $50 to $60, and I will admit I was wrong. I will admit I was wrong. You could have bought them at the pre-sale price for the Cinderella and saved yourself maybe like 15, 20 bucks. But yeah, man, $75 for Cinderella Cinderella Dream Come True. I feel like this card's really good. And if you're playing Sapphire, you probably should be playing some copies of this Cinderella, right? But I don't think Sapphire is like best color in the game either. Like, I don't think Sapphire Emerald is best deck. I don't think Sapphire Steel is best deck. I'll be real. I'm convinced that like Purple Steel is just a broken deck. That's just my opinion. So I feel like you can still play a lot of other decks in this meta. So to see it this expensive, I think is wild. That's but what do you think, Zach? I can see your face. You disagree. Do you think Sapphire Steel, Sapphire Emerald are that top tier that like you need to play them?
I just want to go on record and saying, like, without having to like do too much like practicing, one of my friends recently changed his mind about what he wanted to play and said, I'm just gonna play Sapphire Steel. Started trying to learn the deck, and it took them maybe like 2 reps, and they're crushing it. So I firmly believe like it is on the backs of cards like Goliath and Cinderella, of course with the early ramp like Sail and Tipo, that just puts Sapphire pretty much on top. The Steel cards, again, you really like Purple Steel, right? I think Steel is probably one of the best colors right now.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
That's going to be something I can put on record. However, Sapphire being able to ramp just like really puts the chef's kiss on a lot of the Steel cards, because they get some of the later game Steel cards get to shine, whereas I don't think Purple Steel gets to play too many of those, right? You are getting accelerated if some Sapphire decks are playing a lot of copies like Spooky Sight and Set and Scare, but they're starting to take those out, which again might make way for some aggro decks to show up in the format. But again, Cinderella Dream Come True is probably a really good enabler, and again, Sapphire Steel has a lot of other princesses that can play in combination with it. So
yeah, that's
more
true.
than once, and that's too good. I've actually seen this card resolve like if you play one on turn 4 and you get to use the ability, that's one thing, but playing one again means you can use 2 in that turn, and you've just gone up 2 more ink.
The fact that they
It's hard to
stack,
stop.
the fact that they stack together is kind of wild. And if you don't, if you don't stop the first one, and you let that happen, it starts to steamroll, right? And I think that's the problem with Cindy is that it doesn't have ward, which is very strong. Because if this card had a ward or something, it'd be ridiculous. But it does kind of remind me a little bit of like Prince John kind of Bucky situation where they're just not turning this card sideways unless they have to sing a Thunderbolt or something. So if you don't have an out to the Cinderella and they follow up with Akita, Mulan, Cinderella, whatever they're playing, it can start to steamroll. But I do feel like this card is just better in Sapphire Steel than it is in Sapphire Emerald, right? So that's why I feel like I wasn't giving it as much credit because I'm thinking like, oh, it's really just the card you play 4 of in Sapphire Steel. Why is it $70? But I agree with you, Zach. That deck is very strong. It's very oppressive, and I do feel like if you're someone who just wants to win your local tournament, you can play Sapphire Steel, and it'll probably put you over the edge against some of these other decks. But you made a very good point. Some people taking out Spooky Sight from their deck, which I think makes room for some aggro strategies, right? But I'm a big fan of Amethyst Steel. I like my Dumbos, I like my Genies, I like my Elsas. Dumbo's cheaper than it was before. It used to be the same price as Cindy. Now you can find them for around $40-ish. They're no longer in that $35 range like we were seeing last week, so you're gonna have to pay closer to $40 this week. We have Locust in $38, Bonks $40, and then Play to Win Games, they have 50,000 sales. They're gonna be dictating this price today with $40.97. Not too shabby for a Dumbo today. So they did drop a lot, and if you didn't pick them up within the $30 range last week, GG's, you're gonna have to pay more. Let's talk about Namari's Single-Minded Arrival. This card, very, very popular in Sapphire Steel. They were selling for around $12 to $13 a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and bam, now we're seeing them as low as $25 by MR Bully Cards, but they jump up to $30 and then $32, and then after that, $40. So there's not that many available at this point. If you're going to be paying $40 for a near mint non-foil, you might as well pay $38 for the cold foil. But once these run out, once these 25, 30, 32 are gone, you're going to be paying $40 for your Namari Single-Minded Arrivals, and all the recent sales are selling for already close to $30, right?
Yeah, I do remember last week I was selling these for around like $30, and it's just more and more copies are selling for around that price, which is good to know. But as of right now, I think I have more foil copies available than non-foil copies. And if you are looking for inventory, and if you're in the Southern California area, I am located at Frankenson's Collectible Show. That's open every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if you are in the Carlsbad area, that is northern San Diego County, Kevin's at the Ninja Exchange over there at the shops of Carlsbad. What days are they open, Kevin?
We are open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's a weekend collectible show, so we have everything there, every card game you're looking for, and you guys can play there too. Very, very cool. Zach, real quick, I know you just mentioned that you have more foil Namarios than non-foil. There's only 2 foil listings at around this $40 range, and they start to jump up to $60, $70 towards the bottom of the page already. That's kind of wild, no? Why do you think that is? It's a newer card. What set is this from? Arcasia's Island, if I'm not mistaken, or Rain of Jafar? This is the Rain of Jafar. Rain of Jafar. Okay. I feel like a lot of people didn't open Rain of Jafar. There's so much of that product just sitting around. Are you telling me there's foil Namaris in there for almost $50?
There could be. I think there's 2 things to kind of mention. One is that there's no enchanted printing for this character. I believe it is just a legendary card, and that is it. So foils would be your highest or max rarity. And 2, we're seeing non-foil sell for about $30, and if foils are only 40, Kevin and I have always felt like the enchanted effect has a lot to do with why some legendary foils are not extremely expensive, but when they aren't enchanted copies, normally they're almost double the price. We've seen this like as a common theme throughout Lorcana's history, so only time will tell. We'll start to see maybe some more and more people have some Namaris that they're like, you know what? Yeah, I can sell them. Yeah, I can get rid of them. Oh, this is too good of a price. So more and more people might sell them. This is another card that I think more and more people, when they find out the price of the cold foils, might go into some of their new Whispers bulk and pull these out. The Cheshire Cat, inexplicable. These cold foil copies are around like $9 to $10 right now. And I just kind of want to say that this is honestly a very powerful card in the purple steel deck that Kevin was mentioning. I think it's kind of what you want, right? Like Bell, Accomplished Mystic, felt a little too expensive, felt a little too rough to get to, but a 3-4 is exactly what purple steel wants to do, and to be able to use the Bell whenever you want later on is really good. I fear for this card. It's a lot more difficult to contest the board, and more often than not, purple steel is contesting the board very well. They have a lot of lower to the ground bodies.
Yeah, good stats on this cat right here. 3-4 body. That's what you want to do on turn 3, is play a 3-cost character that you can use to sing strength with. And later on in the game, you get this extra boost ability, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and talk about some other cold foils from Whispers in the Well that are kind of popping off in price right now. We have the Scrooge McDuck Shush Agent. These are selling for around $4 to $5. We have lowest to verified $2.97 with some extra shipping fees there, and they stick around this $4 to $5 range for your cold foil Scrooge. This is more of like an aggro card, right? You want to play this in your aggro decks, assuming we could even get away with playing aggro this meta. Prince Philip, the Vanquisher of Foes. This is not from Whispers, this is from Fabled, but look at this card price just shoot up in the last couple weeks. Lowest verified today for this cold foil is going to be $5.83 with some extra shipping, and then $6.98 by Team The. You're paying at least $7 for your cold foil Prince Philip, Vanquisher of Foes. But I do want to say, this is the copy from Fabled, not the original copy from Ursula's Return. The Fabled copy, a little bit pricier, right? Mowgli, the Man Cub, some other cool foils you can pull from your Whispers boxes. This is going to be a $6 cold foil today by Mav Cards, and then One Half Cards also has it for $5.45 with some extra shipping. So $6 to $7 for your foil Mowgli's. And the Headless Horseman, Cursed Rider. This is a very strong card in your Sapphire Steel strategies. We have one listing right here for $4.43 with some extra shipping. Whoops. And you can actually get 5 of them from that one seller, which is pretty cool. But after that, they jump up to $7, $7.75.
Can you add those to your cart? Can you actually add anything to your cart?
Yeah, we can. We can add all 5 if we want to.
Okay,
we can add all 5 if we want to. But we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. So we can do that there. But yeah, we have them at around $7 after this listing goes away, which is pretty cool. And then Vincenzo Santorini. This is another amazing card in Sapphire Steel. Sapphire Steel just has, like Zach said, multiple ways of utilizing Steel's top end removal. You know, the Vincenzo, the Horseman, then you have your Strength of Raging Fires, etc., etc. And yeah, this card now only 6 listings left, guys, and lowest verified is J-Core 854 with $1 some shipping, and then Smuggler's Cove already getting to $10 post shipping. So this is at least a $10 cold foil for your Vincenzo Santorini, right, Zach?
Yeah, there's also only 6 listings available right now as the time of recording. So this is just something that is becoming more and more scarce. And there's only some sold copies a few days ago, around $15, $16. I have sold a few around $15, and again, this is just a very, very strong card. Being able to deal 3 damage to a chosen character, but also have the body of a 2/8 with 3 lore is very hard to deal with. And again, there's no B preps, there's nothing like that. So Vincenzo Santorini usually gets to stay on board unless Hades comes down and puts him in the inkwell.
And that's going to be it for our Whispers portion of the Meta Market Watch. I want to go over some extra stuff before we call it a day today, guys. The Mulan Charging Ahead promo. This is the foil promo you win at the Lorcana challenges for winning at least 3 of your matches in day 1. This card is selling for less than $50 right now. Lowest verified is going to be MPL's Card Exchange, $48.88, and we have recent sales as low as $47.50. And if you have been wanting to acquire some of these DLC promos, but you can't get into the DLCs because there's only 3 in North America, I can't stress that enough, and they're really hard to get into, you can buy the promos on TCG Player for way cheaper than it would be to fly out to some of these states that I've never been to and partake in the tournaments, right? So that's just some tidbit of information if you guys are trying to get some of these promos for your collection, for your master sets. You don't have to go to the DLCs because now people are listing them for dirt cheap. This is really, really inexpensive. I thought they'd be a little bit more expensive than this. Granted, nobody's really playing Mulan Charging Ahead in any deck. It's not really a playable card, but it is a princess. I think the card looks really good in real life too. This picture does not do it justice. Just want to say that, right, Zach?
Seeing these in person, owning one at its first certain point in time was, just it's totally different. You guys probably want to see if there's any videos available on other like social medias or anything like that, because this kind of like looks like a little like almost like a scan, and it kind of just got like the end of that little light towards the end. So it's just hard to really see like that actual glimmer foil. Like it's too reflective and it's too sparkly, and I don't think any sort of like screen grab or any sort of picture could really do it too much justice. So either looking at it in person or getting like a video of it might be a little bit better for you to just kind of observe. But there's some other things we want to mention. We did go over some cards, but we have some sealed product that's something to just kind of observe. We are looking at some boxes of Arcasius Island around like $88, and I know other sets are also around this price. I believe Reign of Jafar is closer to around like $80 to the $90 range. And this is again something to really consider. Are the cards in here, worth getting? I know that there was Tamatoa Happy's Clam last set, but this one includes Numari Single-Minded Rival. This one includes Lady Family Dog. We are seeing a lot of these cards being played more and more, and again, Fabled booster boxes, I believe, are a lot more expensive, and this reprinted a lot of stuff that a lot of you OG players have already had, OG collectors too. And again, shout outs to all those collectors that started into this game just collecting and as a hobby, that just kind of realized they have too much product to not learn how to play the game with. It's really good to see some of you share your stories, and talk about it down below in the comments. If you think it's worth opening some of these boxes and getting some of the singles, because Fabled right now is the one that's sitting up the most hot. Fabled right now is the one sitting at like the highest out of all these sets, and Whispers in the Well is even like less than Fabled. So I don't know what to think about this. I personally would maybe crack open a couple boxes if I had anything loose like that, but like sealed cases and stuff, I'd probably keep tucked away. What do you think, Kevin?
I like Fabled as like a set to keep tucked away. I think Fabled have introducing the first ever iconic rares is kind of important. That's probably why it has a little bit higher of a price point, and that iconic Mickey is still selling for more than $1,000, right? We're seeing the sales for the Hades and the Ariel nowhere near as active or as expensive as the Minnie Mouse or the Mickey Mouse iconic rare, right? So I think it's going to take a while before we see another set like Fabled in Lorcana. Very interesting to see how Whispers in the Well is doing what all the other booster boxes did in the past, right? Selling for less than MSRP and just less than 120 online. So you're probably going to be paying around 120, 125 like post taxes, right? If you buy this in person. But I think that's why Fabled's more expensive. Also, it was just hard to find Fabled. Like, it felt like the whole format, nobody had any extra boxes left over of this set. But that's going to be all for this Friday weekly Market Watch, our Lorcana Goons. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching the whole way through. If you guys like this content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it does support the channel. Can't wait for Wilds Unknown and Winterspell, right? But I think a lot of people are really excited to finally get some Pixar IPs, right? Toy Story. I'm looking forward to the potential of this Bugs Life cameo, which may or may not happen. I know, Zach, you said Pocahontas is your guess. Let us know your guess down below as well. I want to know what you guys think we're gonna get in Wilds Unknown, right, Zach?
Yeah, I'm excited for this set. I think a lot of my friends that aren't into Lorcana or haven't played Lorcana have literally told me, "Oh, when can I play my Buzz Lightyear or my Toy Story deck?" Well, I'm going to literally take pictures of these cards and be like, "They're real. When are you going to build your Toy Story deck?"
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Let us know too if you are excited about this set. I'm more personally interested in Winterspell just because I do believe that is going to be something for like the Ghent DLC that is that meta. And Wilds Unknown, I think, is gonna also take place during the Infinity format. So we're gonna have a lot of cards to really build our decks around.
Oh, wait, interesting.
And I am excited. Again, Pocahontas, and then you said Bugs Life, right? So I'm hopeful. One of us will be right, but even if we're wrong, whatever they decide to bring to the game, I know I'm going to be excited for. But then, thanks again for any of those that are still watching to the end of this video. Make sure, as always, to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned to Lorcana Goons, and we will see you Goons next time.